Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What are your thoughts? Do you have a problem with the bats that the Yankees were using, even though they are legal? You have a problem with it. And if you do have a problem with it, do you have a problem with it just because it happened to your favorite team, the Milwaukee Brewers? Brewers getting dominated by the Yankees over the weekend, getting swept. We know they lost on Thursday. Talked about that on Friday. But they followed up Saturday. I mean, I don't really want to revisit everything over here. I think this would be one where, you know, if it was a basketball game or football game, you're like, burn the tape. We don't need to rewatch it. But Saturday, 20-9 shellacking. Nestor Cortez going up against his former ball club. 3 pitches, 3 home runs to begin. 4 home runs in the inning. But 20-9, and then yesterday following it up. Brewers did have a lead in the first and then lost it in the bottom of the first. But Brewers losing 12-3, and then Aaron Savali to add insult to injury through 3 innings, 68 pitches, but also left due to a hamstring issue. So you've got a pitching staff that is just absolutely decimated right now. You know, what the biggest takeaway from the weekend, I know the biggest storyline is the torpedo bats that the Yankees used yesterday. I mean, even Sunday Night Baseball, you had Manny Machado getting asked about it while he was mic'd up and that. So, but for me, for Brewers, that's the biggest takeaway I've got is this pitching staff. And what in HE double hockey sticks are they going to be doing with this pitching staff until everybody's healthy and ready to come back? You know, if Savali's going to miss some time, Tobias Myers isn't expected to be back until the end of April. Who knows about Brandon Woodruff? Probably May. Quintana is going to get some road starts in AAA to work up to his way. I don't know how this thing's going to work out. Are you going to have some open tryouts to get some arms in there for crying out loud? Jake Bauers, dude, you might not be being playing any position players right now. You might have to save your arm for some bullpen work. I mean, this is the biggest takeaway I've got. Yeah, I get the bats and the amount of runs and home runs that the Yankees had, but from a Brewers perspective, I'm worried about the pitching, and that's why it kind of leads into or feeds into potentially, you know, what we saw from the Yankees offense this past weekend too. Was it the torpedo bats, or was it just the straight-up pitching from the Brewers, for crying out loud? That, you know, not to have an overreaction Monday or anything like that, but if there's something I'm concerned about, it's the start. It's the pitching. And hopefully we'll see some bounce-back performances. Hopefully we'll see some length from Rodriguez today, who's being the starter, initial out-getter, opener, whatever the heck you want to call it. But if you're like, who's Rodriguez? You're not the only person to like, well, who? I mean, Elvin Rodriguez last year, he was in Tokyo. Before that, he spent a little bit with Tampa Bay, and then before that, Detroit, a little bit with the Angels. I mean, he's only 27. Actually, it's his birthday today, too. Hey, happy birthday, Elvin Rodriguez. You're the opening day starter, or the home opening starter for the Brewers. But the biggest thing I want from him is just some length. Let's see if we can get some length out of him. But yeah, he spent last year Tokyo. What was it? 32 appearances for the Swallows in 2024, compiling a 1-1 record with a 1.80 ERA with 44 strikeouts across 45 innings pitched. November 21st, 2024, Rodriguez and the Swallows parted ways, making him a free agent. Then in January, he signed a 1-year contract with the Brewers and included a club option for 2026. So there's your little bit of a scouting report. I did not know it was his birthday until I just saw it right there, too. So, there you have it. But I want length from him. I don't know what the plan's going to be. But this was a pitching staff, too, that, you know, you had your regular starters with Freddie and Nestor and Aaron Savali. You were at least hoping that you were going to get some length from them. But, man, they had to go to their bullpen early on Saturday and Sunday. And with no off day scheduled until next Monday, you kind of have to worry, especially in the beginning part of this season. How is that going to hold up in the initial parts of this beginning part of the season. It's just, that's the biggest takeaway I've got from this series, or from this opening weekend, was this pitching's in some early trouble. And if I'm Matt Arnold, the general manager for the Brewers, I got to figure out a way. I got to find some arms, possibly even making some call-ups and just getting some bodies into that bullpen that are ready to go here. Are you already making some trades to try to acquire some arms in this thing? If I'm Matt Arnold, I'm looking everywhere and anywhere for some guys that can throw me some innings. But, back to the bat thing, which is the big topic, not only just for Brewers and such, but it's the big topic in Major League Baseball. And I get it, Trevor Megill, like, what side are you on? Are you on the Trevor Megill side, where he hates it, even saying, I'm not sure if it's Bush League or not? I'm paraphrasing, but he did use the phrase Bush League. And also said, but it's the Yankees, so they'll let it slide. I mean, Megill pissed about him. But then you have the Rhys Hoskins and the Christian Yelich's, it's essentially not, putting the I don't know if blame or fault or the excuse on the bats. Heck, even Rhys Hoskins said that he's, going to order some. Christian Yelich saying, quote, I think us players will try anything. I don't think the kind of bat you use has an impact on the outcome of the series. I don't think we played anywhere close to good enough to win any of those games the last 3 days. I don't think the bats had any factor on the series. As players, you're open to trying anything. If you like it, keep doing it. If you don't like it, stay with what you are used to. And like we said, Rhys Hoskins said that, he called some peeps, called, the manufacturers of his model, his bat, and going to get some in to try it out too. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's legal. So if you're a player that maybe wasn't familiar with him, or if you're a player and you saw the results that some of the Yankee players had, not every Yankee player was using them, but you saw the results like Chisholm had, or Goldschmidt or Bellinger, they had. Judge doesn't use it. But you saw those guys, and you're like, why wouldn't you? I would. You're probably, if Rhys Hoskins all of a sudden got a shipment today, he's probably not using it today. Might want it because it's a different feel. The weights distribution on it's going to be a little bit different, so they're probably going to want to take some BP swings in it, hit it in the cage and that, just to kind of see how it feels, because it's not going to be for everybody. But if I'm a hitter, and I saw what the Yankees were doing this weekend, you have two choices. You can moan and groan about it and go out on your front yard and scream to the world. Or, all right, I'm going to try this too. And I would hope that if you're a player and you haven't tried it, but you're curious about it, what do you have to lose to try it? It's a bat that was designed to kind of help hitters if they get, with those inside pitches and such, moving that or adjusting the sweet spot of the bat or the barrel of the bat, where everybody's seen it, right? You're moving a lot of that portion of the wood. It looks like a torpedo, looks like a bowling pin, for crying out loud. So if it's legal out there, why not try it if you're interested in it, if you're a player? So good for Rhys Hoskins saying, I'm going to order something, I'm going to try it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for him. Doesn't necessarily mean it's all of a sudden he's going to just tattoo some home runs. I will say that I'm curious on a bigger sample size, outside of this Brewers and Yankees series, if this is a trend that continues, and it's a trend maybe that continues in other ballparks, like it's the Yankees go to Fenway or the Yankees go to a different ballpark outside of their home stadium, and it continues where you've got, just home run or a lot of balls in play and such. I'll be curious to see if Major League Baseball counters that, because you see this in sports all the time, especially in football. I mean, we're seeing it with the tush push. Apparently there is a movement now with the tush push that, hey, this might actually be a close vote. And I kind of joked about it when it first came out, that I'm like, oh, Mark Murphy's going out there and proposing this because he's retiring, and what does he have to lose in that? Apparently, there's reports out there that there's some backing to ban the tush push, And apparently, some of the thought out there is that Green Bay was the one to like kind of take the bullet and put their name to it because, one, they don't have an owner. And, well, the closest thing they have an owner to is to Mark Murphy, and he's retiring in July. But apparently there is some backing for this from other teams. We'll see how close the vote gets. But the point I'm bringing up is if this is a thing that continues and, we have a bigger sample size of this and, Yankees are hitting all these home runs and they're spraying the ball all over the place, would Major League Baseball after this season say, okay, how does Major League Baseball counter that? Maybe they embrace it? Or do they say, all right, we're going to do this to the ball? Remember the whole dead ball thing? Or they're going to change it, or they're going to alter stuff. I'd be curious after we get a full season's worth of data and just seeing how everything kind of works out. Does Major League Baseball say that's too much, and then they change it? Then they alter the rules? I don't know. But I think we need to see a bigger sample size of this too before we kind of fully go up in arms. But, it was to a point where, I can't be the only one sitting there saying, I'm watching this. I'm like, oh, you got to pitch around the corners. You're trying to maybe as a pitcher trying to pitch so that barrel isn't making contact on that ball. As a pitcher, it's in your head now, I have to imagine. Right? Or as a catcher, if you're calling the game, it's probably in your head by that third game on Sunday, you're Aaron Savali and you're Contreras, and you're like, okay, how do we call this game now? Knowing what we saw from these style of bats. And I got to imagine, if you're the Diamondbacks who are now playing the Yankees or whoever else is going to be playing the Yankees for the rest of the season, as a pitcher going up against that lineup and against those hitters, it's probably in your mind now. Like, okay, do we have to approach this hitter differently? How do we attack differently? And that's going to be something that, these teams and these coaches and everybody else is going to have to adjust to. But I want to see a bigger sample size with this. And I think, too, was it all the batting or was it just the Brewers pitching was absolutely pitiful? It was awful. Nestor Cortez was awful. Aaron Savali was not great. Pitching overall, not great. Made Freddie Peralta's. And Freddie Peralta didn't pitch bad to begin with. But his two solo shots. And I know it's a short porch and right for the Yankees. But it really looks like that Freddie Peralta star is like dang good if you're factoring in everything there.